But right now, man, I mean, we can't have a show if we don't start with the Detroit Red Wings. And you see what Mike has on. You see the quarter zip. It's very important. Guys,
better than the striped shirt.
Yeah.
And again, you can't mention the Red Wings, Mike, if you don't start with Patrick Kane.
That shirt.
A man who, again, coming off a severe injury, it was unheard of that a man at that age with that injury could be what he was before, which is basically a point-a-game guy. He's on a point-a-game pace this year. The Red Wings are sitting pretty comfortably in a playoff spot. It's good to have two franchises that are worth anything at this point in time.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I mean, what a game yesterday. Obviously, there wasn't as much scoring as, Saturday against St. Louis, but electric game. Happy for Kane. What a way to end it. And what an electric call by Ken Daniels. I know I've seen it all over Twitter, but we are so blessed to have some of the best announcers in all of sports, between the Tigers, the Lions, obviously Dan Miller. We are just so blessed. But what a way to end it. Patrick Kane, a shootout or overtime goal, rather, and in tremendous fashion. What a game. Him and DeBrincat both scoring, back returning to Chicago. Just electric night overall.
Yeah, it was so fitting. It was almost scripted. Like he's back in Chicago. Everything. It felt scripted.
It felt like the NHL is scripted, just like everyone says the NFL is. Like, it was like the NHL is scripted. Like, they have a script and they knew what they were doing. On Chris Chelios night, like everything that lined up last night, it felt like everything was scripted. And I keep seeing it here in the chat too. Gentry, at this point, they probably should just extend Patrick Kane like tomorrow or like yesterday. He should have got extended like on the flight home.
Yeah, no, and I do think that's coming. Obviously, they're just like the Lions. They have a lot of young guys that they look forward to locking down, and they have a lot of guys in the pipeline that they look forward to calling up as well. But I'm sure after the recent events and just how much Patrick Kane has meshed into the locker room that he's going to be getting re-signed sooner rather than later. And also, I want to say it was Emily Kaplan brought something up about David Perron, how he might have been on the move, and now that he's here to stay. So a lot of things are changing, but I still think Yzerman's going to be very active at the deadline. I still think this team needs a defenseman, a more defensive defenseman, maybe to pair with Shane Gostisbehere, who's obviously very offensive, but they need to get something secured on the back end. And I could maybe even see them adding a forward. They have a lot of pieces in Grand Rapids along with draft picks that Steve could really use to his advantage if they are trying to go all in. Because I seen PK Subban talk about it on ESPN or whoever had the broadcast the other day, and he said this is a team that I don't think anyone wants to see in a 7-game series. And with the depth and the way that this team is built and the possibility of adding on at this deadline, they're going to be a scary team to face.
When's the deadline? Do we know the exact?
I want to say it's like March 6th or 7th. It's the first the first week of March. So
it's coming up. It's within the next couple of weeks. Then all right, let's go. Hey, I'll just pay Patrick Kane his money and then make some moves. That's all I want.
Yeah, I do. I think that's coming, man. At least 2 to 3 years. I would like to see on the extension. I don't really know what the pay rate is. I would expect somewhere around like mid $3 million-ish, but I mean, whatever it takes, I would say at this point. Obviously, you don't want to give that guy too much because obviously he still is on the back end of his career, even though he is putting up this production. He is older, but what he's bringing to this team is almost unfathomable, and it's been something that this team has been searching for. So when you kind of get it locked down and you get that guy in your room and he wants to be here, and obviously we already seen the chemistry with him and Kane or DeBrincat and Larkin blooming, you keep that guy around.
Yeah, they're playing great hockey. I mean, they're 7-2-1 over the last 10. They've won the last 5 straight. And then in the last 5 games, they've won the last 5 recent games. They're on a 5-game winning streak. They've only allowed 7 goals. So, like, you know, the goaltending, and not just that, but overall team defense has been better, Mike. So, and I saw some people putting it in the chat here. I see Vincent saying Hockey Town is back. But I saw something else. Someone mentioned, I don't know who it was, and I want to make sure I give credit here, but essentially this is a team that in the postseason, you don't want to play. Like they're going to be a scrappy, and not just scrappy, they're talented, but they're a team that I think even besides the record, like they're in a wild card spot. They're a good team, Mike. And that's why I think the trade deadline is so interesting because they're right there. They're a legitimate playoff team, and that's exactly where you want them. And that's credit to those players, man. Like they got, I mean, Alex DeBrincat, the offseason edition, he leads the team in points. I mean, Kane at 35 is playing great. I mean, like I said, he was a point a game, basically a point a game guy before the injury, and he's been a point a game guy this season. So it's like, I don't know what more you can ask for. Like you said, there's some additions you can make, but overall, man, blessed to be watching this type of hockey.
And
it's amazing.
I just saw this too. I just went and looked at this. I think I saw it because I saw a stat about like they've scored 2+ point or two plus goals in like a certain amount. I think it's like 27 of the last 28 games, which is like, to me, it's like that's not like they're out there just dominating. And I do have that bet Gentry to go to the playoffs. I wrote a question. Do you truly think, and this is something that just after yesterday's game, watching it, like, can this team, and Kane made the comment as well, like a day or two ago, can this team actually like compete for a Stanley Cup now? Is this like it feels like it's like a legit thing. And I know like last year the Florida was an 8th seed and they went to the Stanley Cup finals, I'm pretty sure. So like, I feel like if they just get in and they just go in there, they can compete with anyone. There's been big games, even like versus Boston this year, that they dominated, it felt like.
Yeah, and hockey's so different. Obviously, you've seen what happened to the Florida Panthers like a year ago, and they made it all the way. And I think it's more credit to how the team is built and the depth. Like, obviously, your front two lines are insane, and you're moving Larkin, Raymond around, Kane around, DeBrincat around. Those guys are always going to produce, but it's really the secondary scoring that's kind of taken over. You got Daniel Sprong, you get the JT Comfort. It's really all the additions that he built so that this team is a hard team to match up against. When you're rolling out, obviously, Andrew Kopp and David Perron, they're not premier top line guys, but when those guys are on your third line making it hard for the other team, it's going to be a big difference. And I don't want to say, oh, they're going to the Stanley Cup right away, but I do think when they get the ball rolling like this and they play with some confidence, that they are going to be a scary team to face in a 7-game series. And I do think they depending on how the matchups go, they could possibly, make a run out of this. And shout out to the goaltending too, like Jeff brought up. James Reimer, Alex Lyon have really stepped up. There was a lot of question marks with those guys. Alex Lyon obviously has been unreal, but James Reimer stepping up in Billy Husso's spot has been tremendous. So shout out to those guys.
Yeah, you even looked, I mean, the overtime winner, the breakaway by Patrick Kane, that was right before that was a save. Like a big time save. So it's like,
saves, yes.
You can't forget about that. Yeah, I mean, we'll be doing a lot more Red Wings talk, especially come trade deadline. We'll have some great guests on to kind of break that down with us as well.